Hello, guys. We are back for another Wednesday. I hope you're all well. I hope you are enjoying your week so far. Yes, once again, we return to Bumface. This is part 6. So, as always, if you didn't catch last week's part 5 or whatever, pop back, have a little look. For those of you that have already done that, then you're in the right place. And here we go. Bumface, part 6. Dad, shouted Angus. I need help. Dad, who was trying to get bubblegum off of Pirate Jim's mustache with an ice cube, didn't even hear him. Angus wasn't surprised. It was hard to hear anything with millions of kids running around yelling. He scooped Imogen up before she could get trampled and had a closer look at the kids. They were actually only about 6. But in Dad's little house, it seemed like a million. Sorry about the racket, said Dad. I asked some of the local kids in after school so I could do some Pirate Gym research. But things have got a bit out of control. He winced as a loud crash came from the other end of the living room. Avast there, he yelled. Pirate Jim says shiver me timbers and always look after other people's property. Pirate stuff. Angus watched as the kids ignored Dad and carried on having noisy fun. Pack of delinquents, thought Angus. But he had to admire that if he wasn't feeling so sorry for Dad, he might even be a bit jealous of them. Pirate Jim's mouth wasn't working properly, explained Dad. It's the bubblegum. I should never have let the kids hold him. Angus agreed he shouldn't. What were you saying just now? Asked Dad. Angus tried to tell Dad about the school play and the rehearsals, but halfway through they were both had to leap across the room and stop a bookcase with a kid on it from toppling over. Don't worry, Dad, Angus said. I can see you got your hands full and I've got to get Leo and Imogen home. So I'll say goodbye. Outside in the street, Angus could hear the faint sound of Dad's voice. Avast there, he was saying. Splice me membranes and put that Chinese fruit bowl down immediately. Leo tugged at Angus's hand. Is your dad going to look after us while you go to rehearsal? He said. Angus shook his head. If poor old Dad couldn't even control half a dozen 7-year-olds, he'd be completely out of his depth with Leo and Imogen. Angus saw that Leo was looking concerned. Don't worry, Leo, he said. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll go and see Dad. Oh, we'll go and see your dad. Different dads, all right. The door chimes at number 2's big terrace house. The door chimes at number 2's big terrace house played jingle bells. Angus realised he hadn't heard that since number 2 was married to Mum. Number 2 must have got custody of the front doorbell. Ex-husbands. Oh. Angus heard number 2 coming down the hall, singing along with the chime. The hour I spent teaching him the words, thought Angus, and he still hasn't got it right. Number 2 opened the door and Angus saw his face fall, just for a second. Then number 2 gave Leo a big, open-mouthed grin, just like he used to give the audience on the Rocky Horror Show. "Good day, old mate," he boomed. "What are you doing here?" "Good day, Dad," said Leo. "Angus brought us." Angus was halfway through rehearsal rehearsing in his head of what he was planning, what he'd planned to say when he realised number 2 was looking at him. The grin was gone. Angus took a deep breath. "We're doing a play at school," he said. "And Miss Lara needs some professional help staging the battle scene. And as you're one of the top stage actors in the country, I thought I'd ask you." Number 2 frowned whilst he took this in. Then he gave an even bigger grin than before. "Be happy to," he said. "Get Mrs. What's-her-name to give me a ring. And," continued Angus, "I was wondering if you could mind Leo and Imogen for a few afternoons after school whilst I've got rehearsals." Number 2 didn't say anything. His eyes narrowed. He gave Angus a hard look. "Did your mother put you up to this?" he said. "No," said Leo. "It was Angus's idea." "Guzzy panty pads," said Imogen. Okay. "Mum's very busy," said Angus quietly. "I didn't want to bother her." "Very busy," said number 2. "Can't be bothered." "Yes, that sounds like your mother." "Well, I'm afraid I'm very busy too." Angus felt Leo's hand tighten around his. "I'm sorry, Leo," continued number 2. "I have to be at the theatre by 6 each evening, and I spend at least 2 hours before doing voice exercises. It's just not practical. But as soon as I get the chance, old mate, I'm going to take you to the zoo. Next month." "What about," said Angus, desperately trying to remember the name of number 2's new wife. "Priscilla." Number 2 glanced over his shoulder and stepped out of the house and pulled the door closed behind him. He glared at Angus. "Priscilla is very busy too," he said. "Unlike some mothers, she chooses to stay at home and look after her children. You're too young to understand this, young man. But it's a lot of work, taking care of 2 young kids. Why doesn't your mother hire a nanny?" It was Angus's turn to give number 2 a hard look. Mum doesn't hire nannies, he said. Not since she hired Priscilla and she ran off with her. Oh, and you ran off with her. Ah, that's fun. As Angus walked slowly home with Leo and Imogen, he saw that Leo was quietly crying. Don't worry, he said, giving Leo a hug. I'll take you to the zoo sometime. And tomorrow afternoon, we'll go and see Imogen's dad. Go away, said number 3. Angus sighed. He half expected this. Mum was always saying male models were selfish and moody. Look, said number 3, running his fingers through his hair. Me and your mother were together for 2 months. The kid was an accident. Angus put his hands over Imogen's ears. He wasn't exactly sure what number 3 meant, but he was sure Imi wouldn't like it. I made it clear to Marlene at the time, said number 3. I don't like kids. Angus glanced anxiously at Leo. From the way he was standing, Angus could see that he was thinking about giving number 3 a very hard kick. What do you mean, an accident? Asked Angus, still keeping his hands on Imogen's ears. Number 3 ran his hand over his chin stubble. You know where babies come from, right? He said. Angus nodded. From Mummy's tummy, said Leo. Well, if mummies don't want more babies, said number 3, they can take pills to stop them from having more. If they don't forget, your mummy forgot a lot. He started to close the door. Wait, said Angus. You're still Imogen's dad? Sorry, said number 3. I'm really busy. From inside the flat, Angus could hear the sound of a cork coming out from a cork coming out from a bottle and men giggling. The door closed. Angus wasn't surprised. How could a man who couldn't even shave properly be a good father? Bumface, shouted Imogen. They went down the stairs and found Imogen's stroller and started walking back home. Well, that's it, said Angus. We've run out of dads. What about number 4? Asked Leo. He's not a dad, said Angus. He's a boyfriend. Leo's face fell. That means you can't be in the play, he said. Angus looked down at Leo's concerned expression. How could any dad not want to take kids to the zoo immediately? Don't worry, said Angus. I've got another plan. Well, that was Bumface Part 6. Same again. Next week, we'll be getting into Part 7. This is really heating up. Have a great week. And I will speak to you all again really soon.